Floyd Shibambu leaving the EFF does not come as a surprise for me. Most of people struggle with the concept of decolonialization. Like, you guys, most of people cannot function outside the structures of colonialists, outside the structures of white supremacists. You are unable to do that. You know, the EFF and the MK, they advocate for similar things, but they operate on totally different levels. They occupy different spectrums of politics. And one of the problems, one of the reasons why I supported MK, and I still do, by the way, and I made some roles in trying to get some branches, open some branches for it, is that as a country, as a nation, we still need to establish ourselves. There are things that we can talk about which are futuristic things, which would then become irrelevant to the present moment, which would have to be built on a foundation that has been laid by the current politics. And I feel like while the idea of uniting Africa and making one, while it is a good idea, it's a good idea, it's very fun, enthusiasm, like enticing, but it's not a practical one with the current politics. And if you were to center your whole politics around that idea, it means you are likely a person who is never going to effect any real change to the society. And establishing ourselves means building a nation. We still need to build a nation. The South African nation, which is a nation of nations, the nations being AmaZulu and all these other nations that constitute the South African nation, that nation has not been built yet, and somebody needs to build that nation. And MK is one party so far that I feel like is probably on the mission to build the nation and capacitate that nation. And then after we capacitate that nation, MK becomes a nation in Africa that is in a position to be able to unite Africa. Maybe we can start with SADC, we can do that, if that's where we want to take it. But you cannot take an incapacitated, an incapable nation and try to use that to build a bigger nation that is Africa. So you need to first build a nation that will lead that nation. Maybe at some point in the future, we might need to have an African war, by the way, because I don't see how we can unite Africa and make it one without having to go to war. I don't know if it's going to be a big war or a small war, but we need nations that are capable once we embark into that journey of Africa, of uniting Africa. And we need to redefine ourselves as a nation. And one of the ways to redefine ourselves would include strategies like even the law, restructuring the law and making it our own law, and make it according to who we are as a people, not this Roman Dutch thing we have. Now, when we start talking like this, people get scared because they cannot function outside the structures of the colonialists. When you think you want to unite because of pigmentation, because of a skin color, that's just a reaction to the colonial ideology of race, of white supremacism. You just took the white supremacism and flipped it upside down. There's nothing new that you are thinking. There's nothing revolutionary that you are thinking there. You are still thinking within the structures of the white colonialists and white supremacists. And we must be honest about that. And I don't think, by the way, I think, talking about the Floyd issue, I think Floyd joining MK is likely a strategy thing, even if Malema might not be part of the strategy. But it is a very strategic move. Otherwise, if it's not a strategic move, then it would be not so smart of Floyd to do that. And I don't think Floyd is not a smart person. So we need to effect change and define ourselves as a nation first before we can try to expand the ideology beyond. Because we can't even define ourselves as a people. So far, the ANC has failed to build a nation. So far, we just have borders, we just have language, we have all these things, but we have failed to define a nation. And we have failed to build it and define ourselves in the new South Africa. Outside the colonial history that took more than 100 years, more than 300 years. Outside the apartheid history that took more than 5 decades happening and oppressing us, we have not come together and redefined ourselves. And we need that. I just noticed that there's something I didn't leave clear. Land expropriation is part of that redefinition. Redefining ourselves means restructuring the whole society of South Africa. This inequality that is racially based, where white people are above and black people are generally below, that needs to be turned around and dismantled altogether. And we need to start being people now, outside race. And that's a journey that is not going to just be over 1 year or 2 years or something. That's going to be a journey. But we're not trying to be like supremacists. We're not trying to think like supremacists. We are thinking like Africans. Now, most people, that's where now we start seeing MK and EFF talking similar things. But MK takes it further. It doesn't stop with just land redistribution. It redefines the whole society of South Africa and makes it an African society. It makes it us, not a European thing, not a European baby. That is inspired. By the way, we people, you can see with MK, there's very educated people there. So we understand how Europeans think. We understand the European systems very, very well. We understand them very, very well. And we have dug into our own history as well. So we understand how our society functioned. What is it that makes us who we are? Being Ubuntu or Ubuntu doesn't make you weak. And we are on that journey to show that as MK. And I hope they become successful. So I'm just clearing that up. So, yeah.